What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of a 3-part build series. In this series, I'm just building up a pair of saltwater fishing rods. The first video in this series was all about, just coming up with the plan and the intent for the rods, and then putting the handle together. And in today's video, I'm going to finish all the guide work. One of the 2 rods already has the guides on it. It may be showing up back here, I don't know. And then I've got to put the actual clear coat on here to lock these guides in place. And then after that, once it's dry, we're going to go outside and do some extreme load testing. Just for the heck of it, just because they're the most powerful rods I've ever built. We're going to go out there, put my truck in the street, and try to pull my truck down the street with these fishing rods without breaking. Or see if they do break, or whatever. You get the point. That's what's going to happen in today's video. So stick around and see what happens. Alright, y'all, I had originally intended to jump straight from that high-speed montage that you were just watching and go right into the extreme load testing that I'm going to do on these blanks, or at least on one of them. That was the plan. I wanted to spare you from all the long drawn-out details of the build process, because I know that not everybody that tunes into this channel is into rod building. Odds are, if you're not a full-on fishing geek like myself, you probably don't care. But I know some of you have gotten inspired and gotten into this, so I want to show some mistakes that I've made and some stuff that I guess you could say I've learned on this build. It basically has to do with the fact that I decided to build on white blanks with white wraps. I'm pretty picky when it comes to color matching. Some would say OCD, some would just say a pain in the butt. So when I first wrapped these, the wraps were nice and tight. You could not see the guide feet. The color of the thread matched the color of the blanks. And then I hit them with finish. And all of a sudden, the guide feet show. It's not the end of the world to me, but it is a thing. They changed when the finish hit them. And then also the color changed a little bit. I don't know how much it's showing up in the camera, but when I realized that the color changed, let's just say I was cranky. Quite cranky. It looked terrible to me at the time. It looked about the color of the brown in that straw hat, or at least that's how dramatic I was over it at the time. And it's as if that wasn't enough. Even though I was careful to try to make sure that my hands were clean handling the white thread, evidently I got some oil from my skin into portions of the threads. Not on all of them. That one's got it pretty bad. Some of them have it not at all. But like this one right here, where I was starting the wrap, where you do your, I guess it's called an over wrap, or starting your knot. That's where I was handling it a lot, and I believe that though that dirtiness is from my hands weren't clean enough. And as if that weren't enough, I did something else, and I knew it was going to be a problem. And I meant to address it before I got the finish out, and I didn't. But check this out. This rod right here, believe it or not, it had not one but 2 flies get stuck in this part of the finish right here. Great big old nasty barn flies. The finish was to a point where it wouldn't drip, but it was still very tacky. They landed on it, they got stuck. I had to pick them off. Luckily their legs didn't stay embedded in the finish, and I'll be able to recover in it. There's a couple of dimples here. It's actually turned. I think you might see those dimples. That's from those flies. I'm about to put more finish on this rod, and that will cure it. It'll go away. I won't be able to see it. There was one other thing I forgot to mention. This rod back here that's still spinning, I had a little bit of decal lift right there at the top of the S and the H in the Rain Shadow logo. If you've never dealt with that, where the decal lifts up a little bit, it's fixable. You can't even see it now. And all I did is I took a little X-Acto blade and I cut off the high spot Luckily, it wasn't in the lettering. It was only in the clear part of the decal. Cut that off, put some more finish it right back over it. You cannot tell, it'll be fine. And you know, ultimately, these little flaws, seeing the guide feet, the color not being exactly perfect, it's not gonna keep you from catching fish. And that'll be in part 3 of this video build series. So we'll put that remaining finish on that guide, and then we're gonna go outside and we're gonna try to break one of these, and it's probably gonna be the uglier one with the grease in the wraps. Let's do this. All right, y'all, check it out. It's been like 2 weeks since I last had this camera on. These rods, these 2 saltwater fishing rods have been done that whole time, and I just haven't been able to get back to finish this video. But today, I promised myself today I would knock it out, and that's what's about to happen. However, I can't take you outside to try to pull my truck down the road because it's like 111 heat index today, and there's some road construction happening not maybe like 200 yards from here, so it's pretty loud outside. I don't want to screw with all that. So here's the deal. We're going to break down why I think I built a couple of pretty good beginner saltwater fishing rods. And then I'm going to do some load testing. I've got it set up over here. We're going to do some deflection testing up against the most powerful freshwater rod that I've ever built. And then the extreme load testing, we're going to do some deadlifting of this. This would be a little over 25 pounds of steel. It's a box anchor. And I'm going to try to deadlift that with these rods. We'll see how that goes. So why? Why do I think this is a saltwater rod? Let's start at the butt cap. It's a gimbal butt cap. It'll work in a fighting belt. It'll help keep the rod clocked while I'm fighting fish. That belt will help keep some strain off my back. Going forward, EVA just like all my other builds, but the reel seat is flipped. Most freshwater builds, especially in the catfish world, this reel seat would be spun the other way with the threads at the front. I've never really been a fan of that because often when I'm fighting fish, that would put my at least a couple of my fingers on the threaded part when I'm fighting fish when there's a lot of pressure on the rod. In this setup, the only time my hands will be on the threaded part is when casting, but it's going to be rare that I would cast with these rods. It's going to be more trolling, more suspending, that sort of thing. Again, I wanted to prioritize the fight with this build. So that's why the reel seat is spun around. And then, you know, it's a heavier rod than what I've built on before. It's got more power. I don't think it's going to be night and day difference, but there's definitely going to be more power. And then again, it's a 7-foot rod. It's not a, you know, an 8-footer or a 7.6 or anywhere in between. Again, not casting, so I don't need the extra length. And in my experience, when the rod is shorter, that puts less fatigue on me or the person fighting the fish, and you still have ample control over the fish. So those are the thoughts that factored into this build and why I selected what I did and why I built it the way I built it. And now we're going to do some deflection testing against the strongest freshwater rod that I've ever built. I built 2 of them. It's the black blank second, the farthest one from the camera. You see, I'm just using my boat here. I got it sitting fairly level. I've got the rods sitting on pretty close to the same plane. It's not exactly right because, again, the white rod is shorter, so I had to really run it way out on the rod holder there. But I've got them lined up close enough, I think, for what we're doing. So let's get some weight on there. All right, we're going to load up the heaviest catfish rod I've got. I built a pair of these, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, something like that. I have caught many catfish in the, you know, the 50s, 60s, and 70s on this rod. I've caught sharks right just a hair under 80 pounds. I have fought sharks well over that. I don't know how heavy because I didn't land them. I cut them off at the boat. Somewhere in the 6-foot range, I'd say. So, you know, pretty big sharks, hard pulling sharks in current at the end of the Mississippi River. So it's a powerful rod. I always have my drag set at usually around 6 to 8 pounds, maybe up to 10 pounds in freshwater fishing. That might not sound like much to you if you're if you're new to load testing, or if you're really unfamiliar with how a drag on a fishing reel actually works. But to be honest with you, most department store rods, if you set them at 6 to 10 pounds and then tried to lift an anchor, you're probably going to break that rod. I welcome you to try it and see what 6 pounds would actually do to the rod that you fish with. But that's what I'm loading these up with. There's 6 pounds of those are 2-pound cannonballs. And here we go. 6 pounds and 6 pounds. Side by side. Lower the camera. There you go. It looks a little bit more apparent. There is more power in that white rod. Again, not super drastic. It looks a little different from this angle, doesn't it? So yeah, not night and day difference, but I wasn't looking for a broomstick, you know. I'm not an expert at saltwater fishing, so I'm not going to go out there and catch a world record tuna, you know, right away. But I think this is going to do it. This is going to give me more power over the fish, more control. It's going to handle those heavier loads. It's not bending as far into the blank. Similar, but not as far. You can see that black rod is definitely stressed out more. It's been under more load than that though. When fighting sharks, we usually crank the drag pretty tight. So it's been under more than that by quite a bit. I get kind of impatient fighting sharks and pull on them way too hard. So, all right, let's move on. Let's try to deadlift an anchor. All right, so the reels that I ordered for this project, they haven't come in yet. So what I did is I dug through the box and I got out one of these old Cast King Rovers and just cranked the drag down as far as it would possibly go, and then cranked on it some more with some pliers. It's probably not enough because I think these are rated at 18 pounds of drag, but I can always thumb it if I need to. And then I spooled up a little bit more braid. This is 100-pound braid that I put on here on top of the old rotted 65 that was on here from years ago. And that's just a big circle hook, a random large gap circle hook. I put a big one on there so I could put all 3 of those 2-pound cannonballs on there. And with that, I'm gonna hook onto this anchor and see if we can get it off the ground. I've got my safety glasses on in case the blank shatters or something else happens. You've been warned, if you try this at home, it might break your fishing rod. It might break my fishing rod. Things can happen, but here we go. I said I was gonna load test it, and that's what I'm gonna do. 25-pound steel box anchor. It's probably a little over 25 pounds with that chain. I don't know exactly what it weighs. Who cares? I think you'll get the point here when we load this up. Here we go. That is much harder than anticipated. Yeah, I gotta put my thumb in it. That drag is not gonna do it. Just gonna jam my thumb in there. There's the anchor, and we're gonna get all the chain off. I don't see any line contact with the blank. There it is. All of it's off the ground. That's the anchor and the chain, y'all. Look at that dude. That is much harder than I thought it would be. It feels like 100 pounds by the time it's out there on the end of the rod. I have a little bit of contact right here. When I go really high, it's off there. If I go really high with this, the line will contact the blank right here at the EVA. But I really shouldn't be lifting it at 45 degrees anyway. Not with that kind of load on it. Whew. That was hard. Anyway, I've never done that before. What a goofy experiment. All right, guys. With that, I believe I have a worthy pair of saltwater fishing rods to really dive deeper into that saltwater fishing world. You know, get rid of this little turd of a fishing reel here with a proper saltwater fishing reel, and I'm open to your suggestions if you guys want to hit me in the comments below. What do you think I should pair these budget saltwater fishing rods with, you know? Again, we did this on a budget. You guys could build these rods exactly like this. You know, I didn't even think to add it up before turning the camera on today, but I'm gonna say under 200 bucks a piece. And considering that we've got really good quality EVA, a really nice reel seat, a nice heavy-duty set of guides there, and obviously a very sturdy blank. These rain shuttle blanks they're reliable. I've learned that in the freshwater world. I think 200 in a saltwater rod is not bad. And you can make them as custom as you want. I didn't get crazy, obviously. I just wanted workhorse rods, and I think that's what I've got here. If you guys have questions, comments, suggestions, hit me in the comments below. I'd really like to know what reel you think I should pair these with. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching.